Welcome to Home Built Workshop. Today I'm going to make a guitar neck rest and a neck clamping caul for a couple of upcoming projects I have. So I have a couple of cigar box guitar commissions coming up, and there's a couple of things I'm looking at in my process that might make it a little bit easier, maybe a little bit more efficient. The first thing I'm going to do is take this piece of mahogany and I'm going to make a neck clamping caul. Basically it's just a board. This is actually long enough where I can get two of them with a cove cut in the middle with some cork or some sort of soft cushion material lining. You can buy these again online like you can with most of the tools. They're not all that expensive, but I've got this piece around. I was saving it to use to build the guitar neck, but it's about 3 or 4 inches, just a little too short to actually use for a whole neck. So I figured it's just going to become some clamping cauls. I'm going to go straight to the table saw. This project is going to use a technique that's a little bit different. We're going to use the table saw to cut a cove down the length of this board. To make a cove cut on the table saw, it actually involves passing the wood over the blade at an angle. I'm not 100% sure of the angle. I'm going to just use a square and start with about a 45-degree angle. We'll do a test cut and see how that works. We'll raise the blade so it's just barely above the tabletop. And we'll turn on the saw, make a test cut. And the test cut came out really well. Depending on the angle that you run the board through the blade, you can get a different profile cove. So I'm going to continue on with the test cut. It's important to take small passes. You're asking the blade to remove a lot of wood cut in this way. Don't try to feed the wood too fast through the blade. I've done a bunch of test cuts. I've got 6 or 8 different pieces that I've been trying out, just trying to make sure that I get the angle of my temporary fence correct. The width of your cove comes from the angle that you pass the board over the blade. I started out at about a 45-degree angle just as a baseline, and to get a narrower cove, you have to bring the fence in and make that angle less. You can see on these 2 sample pieces, this is my very first cove, and it's really wide and shallow. I need one that's a little bit narrower. This one, I've got a little bit off center on the board, but the depth is a lot more and the width is less, and that's what I want. Another thing with this process is you'll see it makes a lot of sawdust, so be prepared to get dusty, unless you got really good dust collection, which I don't. I think I'm about ready to make my pass with my piece of mahogany. This piece is going to end up being a little bit wide. I'm going to end up having to trim a little bit off, but I'm not going to do that yet, just in case I'm a little bit off on my centering. I can trim some off either side. Right now, I believe I'm going to have to trim just a strip off of one side. There's my final profile. Ended up working out about like I thought. I'm going to have a strip here to cut off the end. Technically now I could remove this temporary fence, but when I build the neck rest, I'm going to need this same angle. So I need to be able to set that up very easily. So I'm going to clean up all the sawdust around the saw with the shop vac, and I'm going to apply some tape along the edge of this board. And that's going to give me a reference point of exactly where I need to clamp this back in place. Now it's on to the neck rest. For that, I need a piece that's about 2 3/4 of an inch thick. I don't have anything on hand that's that thick, but I do have a couple of scraps of barnwood. One in particular that I used for testing a bunch of finishes. I think if I glue both of these together, I can get the right thickness. I need to run these through my planer first. I found that if I ran the boards at an angle, my snipe was pretty much eliminated and they came out really good. After removing some of the squeeze out with a scraper, I'll square up my new block of wood on the table saw. Yes, I managed to tear the green tape in the process, but there's still enough left there where I'm going to be able to realign that temporary fence. Now I'll clamp my temporary fence back into place on the saw, using my tape as a reference. The tape acts as a little mini fence. The wood will catch on the edge of the tape and make it super easy to line back up. The very last pass, I'll flip the piece around and run it again. This is to make sure that my cove is exactly centered on the chunk of wood. Now I'm going to do a little bit of layout to mark out the rest of the cuts. And I'll just use the bandsaw to remove the rest of this material. And I didn't think it looked quite right. That's because I had this measurement wrong. So I need to go back and recut that a little bit deeper. I'll use a half round file to clean up inside the curves. And I almost forgot to cut the clamping caul in half. I'll round over some of the edges using an 1/8 inch roundover bit. I am really glad that I built this drill press router table. If you haven't seen the video for that, there'll be a link below in the description. Now I'm going to cut some pieces of cork to line these. Just drawing a pencil line on there, and I'll cut them off with some scissors. A little funny note about scissors. I'm left-handed, right? But I cannot use scissors with my left hand. Even if they're lefty scissors, it just doesn't work. And I don't know exactly why that is, but I think that it's because going up through school and all that, starting with elementary school, they rarely had left-handed scissors. So I got so used to having to use right-handed scissors that now I can't use lefty scissors. There's a little interesting inside tidbit. Now I'll just spread some glue on there and glue this cork into place. I'm trying to work quick because I wanted to be able to glue this up all in one shot. Now the tricky part is going to be how to clamp this. I've been thinking about different ideas. What I'm going to do is take this old rolled up towel and use that as the clamping caul. It looks like the cork is clamped in there okay, so we'll let that dry for a little bit and see what we end up with. After the glue's dried, remove the clamps. Actually worked pretty good using a towel. Now I'll trim the cork flush using a brand new razor blade. Now I'm going to glue one more piece of cork on right here in the center. We'll use the old towel clamping caul. Could probably also use like maybe a piece of that fun noodle stuff. Might work pretty good as well because it could conform to the shape as well. And I'll trim that cork flush too. For the finish, I'm just going to use a simple Danish oil finish. I really like the way that feels, especially something that you're going to be using like a tool or something like that. It really makes a nice feel, makes the wood feel like wood. And it's really simple to apply. Once the oil's dry, boom, there it is. A couple of nice neck supports and some neck rest cauls. Let me show you how they work. I've got the baritone barncaster here, and let's just pretend for a minute that the neck is removed from the guitar, and I'm going to do some fret work. The neck rest will sit in there like that, and I can use it on my fret press to press the frets down in, and it provides good support for the neck. Cork padded, protects the finish, fits the neck real nice. With the neck rest, if I'm working on a guitar setup, it goes right underneath the neck and it'll adjust at any angle. Provides good padded support for the neck, adjusts for any angle, and also you can use it this way if you ever need that sort of application. Most of the time, I imagine I'll use it just like that. It provides good support for the guitar neck if I'm working on a setup, adjusting the intonation, maybe doing some fret work or something like that. Keeps the neck supported so you don't damage it while you're working on your awesome guitar. So making coves on the table saw is definitely something I recommend trying out, even if you don't intend to make a guitar neck rest or something like that. It's something that you should try playing with. It's actually really simple, and just take your time and you can see how it works, and a lot of different things you can do. See how you can integrate that into your projects. It's definitely fun. I do recommend at least trying it out. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. I appreciate each and every one of you's support. You can follow me on social media. You'll find all the links down below in the description. And don't forget to check out my website, homebuiltworkshop.com. I've been doing a lot of work to that lately, so go there, check it out. There's some cool things that I'm working on that hopefully we'll be able to roll out here in the near future. So head on over there, let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And until next time, thanks a lot for watching. Now it's on to the neck rest. For the neck rest, I need about a 2 3/4 inch wide thick. Inch wide thick? Oh boy. This is really messy. ton of sawdust everywhere. That thing is super handy. First major project. I like it. Hand sanding. Ugh. It's a necessary evil. Ah. Almost sliced myself. Did you see that? Shake thoroughly before using.